Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining today. A big thank you for Niklas Wespel from Angela for giving this Treff presentation today, talking about how to install power hammers. Now, without further ado, Niklas, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. My name is Niklas. I come to that topic later. Let's start with the presentation of the installation and the setup of a power hammer. It's also the same for the spring hammers, almost the same. In addition to spring hammers or hydraulic press, power hammers are the helpers in the forge. I think everybody of you know this. So one problem is that the neighbor's marks don't fall out of the cupboard. Any power hammer or spring hammer should be decoupled by a foundation or by a correct setup. In order to isolate the environment or machine itself from disturbing or harmful vibrations, there are different ways for set up the hammers. Fundamentally important is the presence of a certain mass. Also, the weight of the machine or of the foundation should be very high, or a high mass is good for a good decoupling. But the decoupling of the machine must be done at the right place of the machine. So let's start with the where's it? Next one. First, a few words about me and our company. A brief introduction to me and the Angele company. My name is Niklas. I'm the current company owner and the grandson of the company founder, Hans Angele. And now I'm in the third generation. And the company was founded in 1948 by my grandfather. He started as a workshop for agricultural engines. He sold Ferguson tractors. That's the reason why here's the tractor. Bicycles, repaired a lot of other things that have been important after the war. Unfortunately, shortly after he started this business, almost 2 other people in the same village with about 800 people living here started the same business. And then my grandfather decided to go to a larger company that builds gas and oil burners for heating systems. He worked there as a master in the production, a mechanic master. And after a few years, the company decided, and they also built coal forges there. And in 1964, he took over this business and became self-reliant again. And so the business grown over the years. Also, power hammers and spring hammers were sold. In former times, we sold Kuhn Reiter. I think the most of you will know this brands. Also Saimak, Meitinger. And in 2006, we started to import China power hammers from China, the Anyang hammers. At the beginning, we had to learn a lot of these machines, and the machines were constantly optimized. And to our mind at the moment, are these the best new machines on the market? And we are only selling these as new machines at the moment. These machines were sold over the whole world, and so we will see in the presentation the Anyang power hammer. But now enough with the commercial break. Let's go to the actual topic. Okay, next one. So the problem is, why should you set up the power hammer correct? This can be answered very quickly. It's about avoiding or reducing emissions and optimizing the performance of the power hammer. For examples, you have to avoid shocks to the environment, shocks to the workshop, shocks to other machines, shocks to people, and also reduce the sound level of the machine. On the other hand, you can optimize the machine with a correct setup. You can optimize the smoothness of the machine and the control, also the power of the hit of the machine, the tactfulness of the hammer, the endurance of the machines, because the shocks are absorbed. And also very important, you don't make friends if the neighbor's cups are shaking and you have to drink foamy beer. So it's important that the machine will set up correctly. But where does the emissions come from? And don't worry, we won't go into much detail here. It's just important for the understanding. The power hammers or spring hammers produces vibrations during operation. This comes from the moving parts of the system. The moving parts in the power hammers are, for example, the electrical engine. It's not here in this picture. The flywheel have a lot of mass with turning. Also the ploil here, the ram, and all other movable parts are producing vibrations, and the target is to reduce these vibrations. And when it comes to the installation of or setup of the machine, the aim is to avoid it. And also to keep the impact to the environment as low as possible. There are various methods for this. We always differentiate between a quick setup and the optimal or perfect setup. But let's start with the quick installation. I think the quick installation is important for the most of you. First of all, we have to take a look about the words. We differentiate between the socket and later the base. The socket is over the floor and the base goes down into the floor. But most of the power hammers are set up with a socket and a damping mat directly on the workshop floor. So many people always talk about the base and mean everything under the hammer, but that's not entirely correct and it's rather misleading. So the base usually is directly under the machine. It raises the machine a little bit and ensures an ergonomic position of the machine, and everything underneath this one here, this part, the socket, usually is the part that's important for the quick installation. So the quick installation means the setup of the hammer directly on the workshop floor without complex space down to the ground and in expensive decoupling. This type can be used, for example, for private use or who have a stable workshop floor. Blacksmiths, for your workshop if the floor is thick enough, or if there are no problems with vibrations and shocks. Mainly for smaller power hammers with 25 or 40 kilograms. It goes up to 55 kilograms ram weight. This quick installation is good. And it's also possible to move the power hammer. Here we are. It's very important for the quick installation of the hammer that the decoupling is done at the right place of the machine. So first of all, it is important that the socket is very heavy. The machine works very smoothly then, and a perfect place for the damping mats or the decoupling is under this socket. Here you can find the 4 most common quick installation of the Powerhammers. So first of all, you can see here the machine. Then you can find a compensation mat. It's important, this mat does not damp. It only compensates unevenness between the base and the machine and ensure less noise when the power hammer is hitting. Then the socket is the next. Underneath the socket is the damping mat and the stable workshop floor and the ground below. So the four most common ways to set it up quickly is, for example, the steel welded socket. For example, the Anyang power hammers are using this, the Kuhn power hammers in former times, Cymax, Sahindler, and a lot of other power hammers are using this way. It's a steel welded construction, and it's very easy to produce and to set up the hammer. The plates are welded together, and the base is at the perfect height for work. And then it's also good because we can mount the electric motor directly on the socket, and the socket can be filled with sand, concrete, to increase the whole mass of the hammers. The next way is a wooden socket. For example, here, it's for hobby carpenters. A wooden base is constructed using layers of solid wood, glued and screwed together. The wood must be very strong and not tear too quick. So the wood has a dual function. First is to raise up the mass of the system, and it's also a little bit a resilient element, or a little bit like a damping mat. The next way is a massive steel socket, but at the moment, it's very expensive. This massive steel construction enables a compact, heavy foundation, but as I said before, it's very expensive to make it. And another way is a concrete socket, but it's a very cheap way, but you have to build a form and put the concrete inside, so it's also very with a lot of work. On the next slide, there are a few examples. Here you can see the steel welded construction filled with concrete. Here is a massive wooden socket. Here it's made of steel, of a massive steel plate welded together, and here the concrete socket. Important for this setup is that the workshop floor is very stable. Also, an advantage is that you can put the machine with a forklift everywhere in the workshop. But the big disadvantage is that the machine has less impact energy, and the decoupling is not so good. So let's come to the perfect installation. It's seen here. The machine, then a compensation mat, the socket, and maybe it's a little bit different. Normally it's only used one compensation mat, sometimes here and sometimes here. You only use one. Then a big concrete base and damping mats that goes around to the bottom and to the sides. Very important, the compensation mat does not damp. It's very important. It only compensates the unevenness between the base and the machine and reduces the noise when hitting. The damping mat downwards is necessary to the sides here. you can use the damping mats. It's a little bit easier when you fill the base with concrete. And another way is to give here a little bit of gap, 2 or 5 centimeters, that the concrete base does not have does not hit the ground or the floor. So here you can see in Cymac 50 kilogram hammer with a setup. It's in Innsbruck, Austria. A new forge were built there, and first the armored concrete base were made, and here you can see the machine. Between the machine and the socket is a small compensation mat. Then the steel socket, in this case it is filled with sand because the school has a lot of sand beside the school, and then armored concrete. The damping mats are on the side and under the base, and here you can see the floor. And after the installation, they make here a sheet metal so that the machine is at the same height than the floor. In this example, you can see a special setup of the machine. Here, where the old Powerhammer in Kuhn, it was replaced with an Yang Powerhammer. And the problem was that the foundation only has these 2 small stripes here. But the foundation goes from the 2nd floor down to the garage and to the base of the building. And then it was not possible to make a new big base for the power hammers. So we used the old ones. Here you can see the power hammer from below. Here is the small mat, then a steel plate and the power hammer on top. So the machine will withstand perfectly on the old foundation, and the machine is still working very well. Here a small video. You can see the base. It's a little bit smaller than the hammer. On the other side, you can see inside Mac hammer, we set it up the same way. And you can see when the hammer is running that there is no big shaking of the machine. And the machine runs very smooth. And as I said before, the orange mats are used to compensate the unevenness. And the damping mat in this case is installed down in the foundation of the basement of the building. So you can see it here. Okay. But there's still one question. If you take a look here, how big or how heavy should be the concrete base of a power hammer? That's an important question. The socket, as already mentioned, serves to increase the weight. So the socket can be as heavy as possible. The base itself should be adjusted to the size of the hammer. There is a rule of thumb here. For example, 3 to 5 times weight of the machine, or 75 times weight of the ram. For example, a 40 kilogram hammer with a 40 kilogram ram should have a base with about 1,800 kilograms. The damping mats here are made of special elastomer, and it's calculated individually with the machine weight and the base parameter. Downwards, as I said before, it should be in every case, and sidewards should be these mats, the stamping mats, or a gap with 2 or 5 centimeters about. Okay. For example, you can see here the Anyang. It's in this picture. It should be the 25 kilograms hammers. We calculated the whole thing individually for each hammer and design the type of decoupling mats, and accordingly to the different parameters. Here you can see such how damping is designed, but we won't go in detail here. For example, the 25 kilograms Anyang hammer here, the steel casing here is filled with concrete. The weight is about 1.4 tons. The base is made of armored concrete with 1.5 meters to 0.8 and 0.7 meters. And the damping mats here are made of special elastomer downwards and normally sidewards. Here are a few examples, pictures from customers or pictures that we made. Here you can see a Powerhammer on stilts. It's a good idea, but there is a lack of mass, and the Powerhammer has little impact energy if you set it up in this way. The blue hammer, like in the picture here, is probably working very well, but the foundation, the socket is very big, and I think it's not very ergonomic to work on this machine. Almost, I think it's the same here. Other examples here, you can see a wooden base, also a very big one. And not the base, the socket is very big. I think it's almost too big for these hammers. The same here. And this one is made of massive steel, hardly affordable today. So it will work very well, but no one can pay for this. Here you can see a special hammer. It was only built for one application, to forge a shaft. This hammer is without anvil, but this complete socket is filled with concrete. Here you can see it, it's the concrete. In the middle is a brick socket. It's an old hammer. I think it's almost 70 years old, this one, or 60, 70 years old. And here you can see also concrete with a steel base. Now you can see here a much more complex project that we implemented a few years ago. Here you can see a 150 kilogram hammer from Anyang. The basic requirement was that absolutely no vibration should pass on the next room, because there is a measuring machine here. And so it's a little bit crazy in this project, because the entire room was decoupled from the foundation and the whole building, and also the base of the Powerhammer were decoupled too. So there were two decouplings in this whole system, and it's crazy, but no vibration is not noticeable in the next room, and it's a very large machine. It's very big. Here you can see that the anvil of the Powerhammer is a little bit lower than the floor and the rest of the other machines. This setup is normally for Powerhammers over 110, 150 kilograms ram weight, and the base is much more complex to produce. For this reason, large and used old heavy power hammers are very cheap. After this machine were installed, you can see it here. We took it over with a crane, and then it was installed. It was poured with swelling mortar to ensure that the machine perfectly lays on the base. And the anvil is only clamped with wooden wedges. The anvil weight is about 1,500 kilograms, and the machine weight is about 3,300 kilograms, and the base thick is about 1.6 meters. So it's a very, very big base, but it worked perfectly. So here you can see a video from an inexperienced blacksmith. It was just a matter of letting the machine hit with its full potential, and there was no vibration in the next room. You can see the first decoupling stripe, and the whole room is also decoupled from the rest. So now we have reached the end. I would like to thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. If there are any questions afterwards, you can also write an email to us, no problem. We will help you with the installation of your hammers and answer your questions. That's our job. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Niklas. This has been an amazing presentation. Lots of new insights, at least for me, and I hope also for other people present. Yeah, we have already the first couple of questions in the chat, and I would like to read them one by one. The first question comes from Paul. What is the space between concrete base and floor? And here's also a second one. Maybe one can answer them quite well together. What is the ratio between base and power hammer?
The space between the concrete and the floor around the machine. Let's go to here. Far away. This space, do you mean this?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. This space normally it's between 2 or 5 centimeters. Not too big, because there is a big gap around the machines, and you have to cover it with metal sheets again. But it should be so big that if the machine is shaking a little bit, that it doesn't hit the ground on the side. But normally 2 or 5 centimeters is enough space.
Okay, thank you.
And the ratio between base and the power hammer, if you mean this one, it's 3 to 5 times weight of the machine, or 75 times weight of the ram.
Yes, that is what I mentioned, and you answered this question all during your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
All right. The next question comes from Trollheimer. I suppose this is how it's supposed to be said. What are good materials for compensation mat and dampening mat?
Okay. Let's go here to this one. Okay. Compensation mat. For the compensation mat, it's called Vulcolan. It's a Vulcolan plate. You can see it here in our shop. For example, this is one for the Kuhn power hammers, for the older one. It's a name of the brand Vulcolan. It compensates if the surface is not flat, but don't reduce the striking or hitting power of the machines. And for the dampening mats, it's another material. It's silomer, and I won't say you the correct type because it's a little bit difficult, and it's also our business to to calculate it correctly for you, and we will sell it to you directly. In former times where it's called, I don't know the English word, it's iron wool. I'm not sure, but I think it's no longer available on the market. It's like sheep wool, but made of iron, and this damps the hits of the power hammers. For example, Berger in former times sold the iron wool, but it's still on the market, but much more expensive than these damping mats.
Yeah. I hope this is a good, at least starting answer to the question. Paul said, I use these mats which I used in pig stables under cows, black rubber. And I can confess I use stuff which is usually used for railroad track.
Okay.
They also have some kind of mat which goes under, which was laying around in school. So that's where I got it. I think it's usually also difficult to find, but that works quite well. And for maybe the people who saw this picture, this advertisement picture for the Treff, that's actually my power hammer here in the workshop. It's standing on heavy, I think it's called heavy machinery feet, basically like a couple of springs, coils between two. What is it? Oh, no. Anyway, between two plates.
It's also possible to put small damping elements under the machine, or under the base. But the problem is with the small feet, if they are damaged, you can't replace it under these concrete base, and the mat is very durable, so you can leave it there for the next 50-60 years with no problems. And if you use the iron wool mat, it will be smaller after the few years, and I don't know how durable is the black rubber mats. I don't know.
It goes. It lives quite long.
Okay.
But of course, rubber is going to become dry, and one day it is lost. But that takes years. It's very thick rubber.
Okay.
It's rubber which use the farmers in Holland under their cows in the stables, and it's about 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters thick, and it's very qualified rubber. But
I think there was, Niklas, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I have a power hammer. You can see it in my webcam. I bought this power hammer from Greece, but this power hammer came like this from Germany. And I believe between the power hammer and the concrete base, there is compensation. I don't know. It's something rubbery, something rubber. Probably this black rubber you mentioned. And underneath here at the feet, there is like 5 centimeters of rubber. The power hammer is shaking a lot. So I don't know, probably I have to remove this rubber from underneath here and place underneath it a dumping mat probably. To stabilize it a bit. I don't know.
That's correct, but you don't need a complete mat on this machine. You can only use small stripes.
Yeah, small stripes.
Yeah, it's much more cheaper. And for example, I can show you. You can also find it in our shop. If you use for this machine, I think 3 stripes on the machine, and then it will be decoupled from the building and will not jump up and down.
Yeah, because it's shaking a lot.
Yeah. It's when the rubber or the compensation mat, not the compensation mat, the damping mat is too soft. That's a problem.
Yeah. And a couple of days back, Peter Berner was here in my shop. And he mentioned you. He told me, ask Niklas whatever you need and he will help you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, he traveled around Greece.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. There's another question from Nick Barton. I'm currently installing a 700-pound Chambersburg utility hammer. I have 3 feet of concrete and 3 feet of oak under the 11,000-pound anvil, as the original blueprint calls for. My question is whether or not to bury the anvil with dirt or gravel, or to leave the anvil area under the hammer empty.
Is it the hammer in your bag?
Yes, it is. Under here is the anvil. And the foundation for the actual frame is separate from the anvil. It's a 2-piece. And the original blueprint calls for, so this was just the concrete form to pour this. And the original blueprint calls for burying the anvil and all of the oak.
Okay.
And just have everything just be dirt floor.
Okay, I've never seen it before. But is it possible that you send me the original plans and also a few pictures?
I can send you pictures and.
Yes, and then it's the first time that I've seen this plan, and normally there should be no connection between the base of the hammer and the base of the whole building. There should be no connection.
No, there is no connection.
Okay.
I would say if there are no further questions, I don't have any myself. I think this was a very informative presentation with, for me, lots of new things. It's always interesting to see how other people do it. And thank you, everyone, for being present. Again, thank you, Niklas, for preparing this. And in case you're interested you have something you want to talk about and would be so great for other people to know, something you do special yourself, just contact Paul or me. You can also give a Treff presentation. It's free for everyone.